Oh, they always believe house. Oh, today we're going to have FUN, fun, because we're going to do a test review. This is probably the hardest test of the whole year, really. It's over quadratics, factoring, and getting the zeros. I'm going to show you some tips. Remember, you can always get the zeros by graphing and tracing or using the graph properties, okay? So let's get going. A magical whiteboard appears, and let's start rocking and rolling on this. I'm going to go through and do most of the odd problems. This is going to be a grade that you can turn in. I'm not going to do all of them, okay? So let's start off with number 1. First off, right up on the back, write down ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. If you want to solve a quadratic formula and you want to graph it, you got to put it in this form. Once it's in this form, you graph this part of it. You don't put the equal 0 there, just trace to the zeros. That will always work. So let's go to number 1. On number 1, you can see that it's already in the right form. So let's graph this and trace to the zeros, okay? This is the easiest way to do this, okay? So I'm going to click the home button, okay? Click B for graph, and then I'm going to hit menu, graph is 3, and function is 1. Make sure it says F1X up there. And remember, you can't use any other letter but X and Y on the calculator, because that's the X-axis and the Y-axis. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to graph 4x squared minus 19x plus 21. So 4x squared, did I hit the right X? 4x squared minus 19x, is it minus 20? Plus 21. Plus 21. Then hit enter. Okay, and I got my parabola, don't I? Now then, I'm going to hit menu, graph trace, and keep menu, trace, and then graph trace. So menu, the kids are saying menu 51, menu, trace, and graph trace is 1, menu 51, and then hit the down button. And I'm going to keep hitting the down button until I get to where it says 0. And I'm almost there, and there it is. So my first 0 is 1.75. So I'm going to go over here, K equals 1.75, and go back, keep hitting the right arrow button. I'm going to get to the minimum, right? The minimum's going to be the vertex. Keep hitting the right arrow button until I get to the x-axis and 3, 0. So those right there are my zeros, okay? You could do almost every single problem like that. You got to put it in the right form, graph it, and trace, and boom, you get your zeros. Let's go to number 3. Number 3, this is not in the right form, is it? So I need to move over the 16, don't I? So 3r squared minus 22r minus 16 equals 0. Now then, I'm going to do this by factoring. You could graph that and trace, okay? Let's do it by factoring. I'm going to take the 3 and the 16 and multiply and get 48. My factors of 48, there's a whole bunch of them, but I want to subtract and get 22, and that's going to be 2 times 24. So 2 times 24 is the 48, and subtracts and gives me the 22. I'm going to put the 24 first, the 2 second. The 24 gets that middle sign, doesn't it? What do you do to negative 24 to get to 22? Negative 22, you're going to add 2. Negative 24 plus 2 is negative 22. Then I'm going to put 3r on the bottom. This over on the left simplifies. You can divide by 3. So I'm going to get negative 8 over r and then plus 2 over 3r. If I multiply the top, negative 8 times 2, I get the negative 16. If I multiply the bottom, 3r times r, I get the 3r squared. Ding, 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 ding. Those are my factors. So my first factor is r minus 8, and my second factor is 3r plus 2 equals 0. Now then, you set these factors equal to 0 and solve, okay? So I'm going to go to the left. r minus 8 equals 0. Move over the 8 by adding it. My first 0 is a positive 8. So r equals 8, and then write down 3r plus 2 equals 0. Move over the 2. 3r equals negative 2. Divide by 3. This right here is my 0. Negative 2 over 3. Ding, 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 ding. That's where the parabola would cross the x-axis. Also notice that negative 2 over 3, when you trace this, can be negative 0.6666. Okay? Same answer. Piece of cake. Remember, you can also graph and trace. Don't ever forget that. Number 5, I could do this with the square root. All I need to do is get rid of that square root, and the 121 is a perfect square. So I'm going to square root. This turns into x plus 4. And remember, the square root of 121 could be a positive or negative 11. That's going to give me my 2 zeros. I'm going to move over the 4. So my x is going to equal to negative 4 plus 11 and negative 4 minus 11. So I'm going to write down negative 4 plus 11 and negative 4 minus 11. X is going to equal to negative 4 plus 11 is 7, and negative 4 minus 11 is negative 15. Piece of cake. Okay? Remember, to graph this, you would need to move the 121 over. If you were to graph that, what I have written down right here, don't put in the equal 0, but you had to move the 121 over, that would work. You would type it in, trace to the zeros, okay? Let's keep going. Okay, I'm going to do this by factoring, okay? I could graph this. If I were to graph that and trace, I would get to the answer here, okay? Now then, okay, I'm going to factor this. The factors of 40 that subtract and give me 3 are going to be 5 and 8. Okay, and I'm going to put the 8 first and the 5 second. I need a positive 8 because of the middle sign, and then minus 5. And then on the bottom, I'm going to put W and W. So W times W is W squared. Positive 8 times negative 5 is negative 40. These are going to turn into my factors. W plus 8 and W minus 5 equals 0. Set each of those equal to 0. So W plus 8 equals 0. Move over the 8. My length cannot be a negative number, can it? So I'm not going to use that one. On this one, W minus 5 equals 0. Move over the 5. W equals 5. Ding, 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 ding. My width is 5. And then it says the length is 3 foot greater. So my length is what's 5 plus 3? It's 8, right? And 5 times 8 gives me my area of 40, doesn't it? So this right here would be the length and the width, okay? Piece of cake. Let's go to number 9. On number 9, you're going to take that 60 and put it right here. 60 equals 4x squared minus 8x. Notice this isn't solved for 0, is it? So I'm going to move the 60 over. So I'm going to have 0 equals 4x squared minus 8x minus 60. Now then, I'm going to let you graph and trace on this. And graph and trace to positive root. Or positive 0. So don't trace to the left, trace to the right, okay? Let's go to the next one. On this one right here, you're going to graph and trace again, and we'll do this one together, okay? The 1/4 is going to make this parabola wider in it. So let's graph this. 1/4 x squared minus 4, and we could use 0.25 x squared for the 1/4. Okay, so we're going to go to the calculator, hit the escape, delete, delete, delete. Hit delete 3 times, that deletes it. Since I've already graphed a function, I'm going to hit tab, and then 0.25 x squared minus, and it's going to be 4. Hit enter, and there's my parabola, and I'm going to trace this. Notice that the vertex is on the 0, so my zeros are going to be the same thing. So menu, traces 5, graph traces 1, and notice that 0, negative 4, that's my y-intercept, that's my minimum, and I'm just going to hit the right arrow button, and it looks like it's going to be 4 in it. Okay, so my first 0 is 4 in it. Now then, I'm just going to type in -4, hit enter, and boom, that's my other 0. So the two zeros are -4 and 4. Okay, so what is the positive solution? The positive solution is +4 in it. Piece of cake. Let's keep going. Number 13, I'm going to do this with the square root, okay? I could move the 50 over. If you were to graph that and trace, you would get your answers, okay? Just graph it and trace it, you get your answers. I could do this, though, with the square root. I could divide by 2. I'm going to have x minus 9 squared equals 25, and then I'm going to square root both sides. That gives me x minus 9 equals positive or -5. I'm going to move over the 9, so x equals a positive 9 plus or minus 5. So I'm going to have 9 plus 5, and I'm going to have 9 minus 5. So x equals 9 plus 5 is 14, and 9 minus 5 is 4. Ding, 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 ding. Those are my two answers. I would get the same thing by graphing this. Okay, piece of cake. Remember, if all else fails, graph it and trace, and that will give you the zeros. Okay, on this one, let's do this again. So write down y equals a parentheses, this is vertex form. This is on your formula chart. This number right here vertically stretches or compresses, right? This is going to make the graph thinner or wider, okay? The h moves it left or right, and the k moves it up or down. And I'm just using the first letters there. So the h is left or right, the k is up or down, and also remember the h is opposite, right? Also it says graph the parent function. The parent function's y equal x squared, and remember the t-chart was -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and it was 4, 1, 0, 1, 4, right? That's the t-chart for the parent function. Okay, so it says to graph the parent function every single time. So on every one of these graphs, you graph the origin, and then you go over 1, up 1, and then over 2, up 4, and those dots give you the parent function every single time. Okay? Those are the dots for the parent function. Now then, if you don't change the a, those dots don't change. They're in the same pattern. So let's look at number 15. The minus, or let's just write down the vertex. The vertex of this would be 4, 1, wouldn't it? The h is opposite. So this is right 4, and this is up 1. So if I were to go right 4 and up 1 and draw another dot and repeat the pattern, over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1, over 2, up 4, over 2, up 4, and draw my new parabola. Boom. Okay, that's all you got to do. Piece of cake. I'm going to do one more of these for you. Let's do number 18. Okay, so on 18, first off, let's draw the parent quadratic function. Okay, so the parent quadratic function 0, 0. Then you go over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1, and then over 2, and I got to do 4 up here. Over 2, up 4, and then connect those dots. That's the parent quadratic function. This has a vertex. The opposite of +3 is -3 and -2. This means I'm going to go left 3, and this means I'm going to go down 2. So I'm going to go left 3, down 2, draw a dot, and then I'm going to repeat those dots. So from the vertex, over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1, and then over 2, up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, over 2, up 4, and then draw another parabola. The parabola does not change shape if you don't change the A, okay? Once that A changes, it changes that pattern of dots, okay? Go down to number 19. On 19 and 20, notice we have an A. So that's going to change it, okay? I will do number 20 for you, okay? Because number 19 is going to be a little bit easier because of the graph, okay? Very quickly on this one right here, the graph is going to be the vertex. The opposite of -1 is +1, and the opposite and the -1, right? That's going to be my vertex. And this right here, whether the graph is narrower or wider, that makes it narrower. On the STAR test, it will be vertically stretched or horizontally compressed. Probably vertically stretched, okay? So the apparent function will be these dots, won't it? Okay, now that when you draw the new one, the vertex is going to be over 1, down 1, and it's just draw a narrower parabola, okay? That's all you got to do. And I'm going to let you do number 20 on your own, okay? I flipped it around. I did number 19 for you, okay? And let's go to number 21. The last one we're going to solve by factoring. We need to move over the 10. So r squared plus 7r plus 10 equals 0. And I need the factors of 10 that add up to 7, and that's 2 and 5 in it. Okay, and I need a +2 and a +5, so r plus 5 and r plus 2 are my factors. The zeros are the opposites, so the zeros will be -5 and -2. That's where the parabola will cross the x-axis. Remember, I could graph this right here and trace to the x-intercepts. That will work every single time. You're going to do great on your test. You've got to have that calculator with you to use that calculator. Make sure you can graph and trace. You are amazing. You are created to do wonderful things, and you are awesome.